Well, hello, YouTube Power Hour Squad. Erika here for a very special episode. As you might know, I absolutely love featuring my bootcamp students here on the podcast. And this week, I had the pleasure of interviewing one of my first bootcamp students when I first started bootcamp back in January of 2018, Laura Jane Atelier. Laura came to me as a blogger, Instagrammer, but brand new on YouTube. She was one of the first students that I was able to help in my bootcamp. And it's so special to be able to feature her story here, where now on YouTube she has over 77,000 YouTube subscribers. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the bootcamp that Laura and I talk about in this video, I will have the link in the description for the waitlist. And if you're interested, I suggest you add your name to the waitlist so that you're notified the next time I open up space. Welcome, my name is Erika Vieira. I am a YouTube strategist and coach, having helped more than 500 women behind the scenes since 2017 grow on YouTube. And on this channel, I interview well-known female content creators while we together pull back the curtain to reveal what it's really like to be successful on YouTube. So if that sounds like your jam, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because I come out with 2 videos every single week. Enjoy the interview. Well, hello, Laura. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how are you?
Good. It's so nice to have you. I mean, it's always my goal with my bootcamp students to be able to share their success stories on the podcast. So to be able to have you on here as one of my first students in the podcast is such an honor for me.
Yeah, I know. I didn't realize when I signed up that I was like the first group of people.
Yeah, you were. So it was a great, awesome first group of people, and you were part of it. And why don't we just first get started with you sharing what initially inspired you to get onto YouTube?
Well, I started my blog in 2014, and I was doing that, I think, because I started my YouTube channel like December or November 2017. So I was doing the blog for a few years, and I think back in 2014 I started YouTube and put like 5 or 10 videos on there, but I was overwhelmed with everything. I didn't really know what I was doing. I couldn't figure out my niche yet, so it took me like a few years even just with my blog and Instagram to kind of figure out my niche and what I was doing. But then even when I started YouTube, I still didn't really know what I was doing with my niche. It almost took me about a year of like making videos and thinking of things where I kind of really started like honing in like my niche and what people want and kind of what my channel was. Because I kept doing like hauls and like vintage hauls, but none of that was really working for me. I did that for like a year, and I just couldn't figure it out. And then one day it kind of like clicked. Like I just kept thinking of ideas, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like I've never seen anyone do that before. And I just kept thinking and thinking. And then finally, like one video just clicked, and then it just kept going. And then I kind of really started honing in on my niche.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we did the boot camp, it was January of 2018 or end of January. So you were like I remember that you were brand new on YouTube. You had your experience as a blog and you had that blogging world and the blogging kind of mentality, but YouTube was a new thing. So like, how were you feeling in that moment before when you first started, when you were just starting off on YouTube? Like, how were you feeling?
I mean, I just didn't really know what I was doing. I had lots of like technical difficulties with sound, but I'm the type of person where I learn as I go. So I'm not like a way, like I just want to get stuff out there and keep trying and getting better. So I'm not the type of person where I'm like, oh, the sound's not good or that's not perfect. I have to just learn as I do. So I'm not gonna like hold back and not post. And so I didn't really care. I'm like, no one's watching. I'm just going to keep doing it, keep trying. And then I can't remember how I found out about your podcast, or maybe I was looking for a podcast about YouTube because I was like, oh, I should look and see if there's like any tips. And then your boot camp, and I was like, I should do it. Like, and I just kind of on a whim just decided to sign up. I'm like, I don't know, can't lose.
Yeah.
Happens. It can't be any worse than I'm off now.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, tell me what it was like for you, like going through the bootcamp experience.
It was really good to learn about tagging, stuff like that, like the SEO, because I didn't really know anything about that. I mean, I really didn't know anything, so I just learned a lot about the tagging and just kind of the YouTube culture in general, because it's so different from Instagram and blogging. So it took me figure out all that because it's just different, and how it's a search engine. Because I kept doing like, hauls and things I would do in my blog, but I started to realize that people aren't really searching that. So people won't find you versus like specific topics about people and things. They're always searching, and a lot of my content doesn't really go out of date because it's about people and history that will always be searched versus like trendy like things depending on the seasons and stuff. So it just took me a while just to figure out what YouTube was about.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, you have a really cool and interesting niche and channel. I mean, for those of you who don't know Laura's channel, it's really all about vintage. I remember when you first started, it was really more geared towards kind of like vintage fashion. You had a lot of vintage fashion things on your blog and your channel. And then it's like you had all the elements that were there, but like exactly what you said, you just didn't know how to put it all together on YouTube.
Yeah, and then it just started clicking when I started. I think maybe one of the first ones I did was the Sharon Tate one because that movie came out last summer, Once Upon a Time. But I can't remember how it all started. And I was just like looking and I was like, I should do something about the movie, or I can't remember. And then I just looked up her estate online and because she had an auction selling off all her stuff, and I bought replicas on eBay of the vintage ones. And I did a video about Sharon Tate's like favorite beauty products. And then it kind of snowballed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The first video I did that's kind of started the whole thing was vintage beauty products you can still buy today. That was the first video that really kind of started the whole new niche.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of took off from there. And then I started doing like people and then like specific vintage beauty products, like not just all, and it just kind of took off from there.
Yeah. So what was the biggest breakthrough that you had when you were going through the boot camp?
I mean, I feel like even after the boot camp, I was still like it took me about a year post boot camp to figure things out. So like during the boot camp, I was still just learning the basics in terms of like thumbnails, like trying to figure out my style with thumbnails. Like it took me a while to figure out the thumbnails because I was so set on like the Instagram aesthetic, and you kept telling me, no, it's different, and like people in the boot camp. And then I started, even like when I first started, I've gone back and changed my old thumbnails. Because I noticed like people want to see, like now I don't even show myself at all in the thumbnails. Whenever I show myself, no one watches. So I have to people are more interested in the people. So I do like up close, big photos of their heads. Like, you know what I mean? So it's really clickable. And I just show the people that I'm featuring. And I kind of moved away from like myself being like, okay, no one really cares about you. And that's okay. Let's talk about the other people that people care, So I've kind of like removed myself as a person and just started talking about these people.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. Your thumbnails were definitely a struggle. And it's like, yeah, you had the blogging mentality and it was like, okay, we got to change it more YouTube. And I think that's like a really good lesson too. It's like with YouTube, it's so much about just the act of doing and continuing to do and to continue to put out content, because you never know what's finally going to click. And for you, by the time, like you said, you were still doing it. I mean, you went through the whole program and you were in there and you were doing your thing and you were uploading consistently. And then boom, one of your videos just took off. And then like what I teach is, you piggyback off of that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember in your bootcamp, you were mentioning like, you have to be prepared to go viral. If I went viral a year before, it would have been bad. Like, I'm glad it happened when it happened because I had this whole catalog of videos already out, where people could look at that and be like, oh, I want to subscribe, look at all these things. But if I had just a few hauls and then the one video, I wouldn't have had the same momentum because they started feeding off each other, all the videos. So like when that Grace Kelly one suddenly popped, suddenly the Marilyn Monroe one did, and then that one did. And then they kept feeding off each other, and then I kept posting and doing it, and they just kept growing together, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always say that too. It's like when the YouTube gods kiss your channel, like this is the time to just like bang out your content and ride that wave. And I remember we talked even like a little bit after that first one went viral, and it's like, do it, just do it. Upload what you can right now, because this is your moment. Because Laura had a video, I forget, I thought it was a Marilyn Monroe one that you could still buy today, but maybe it wasn't that one.
Well, what happened is I posted the Grace Kelly one,
Mm-hmm.
and then for a walk, and I came home and I was like, whoa, I just gained 300 subscribers. And I was like, what? And then I kind of checked back and I was like, what the hell's going on? So it was the first time it happened. And I was just like, whoa, like it just kept, I was like kind of scared almost. And I was like, I remember I like went and was talking to Kimberlea because I met her in the boot camp,
Mm-hmm.
asking her, I'm like, what the hell's going on? Because it's kind of almost like, it's weird. It's hard to explain. It's kind of terrifying to like log in to the YouTube app and you're like, what? Like it just keeps growing and growing like really quick. And then you just get all these comments and like views and you're just like, whoa, like where, you know, it's kind of scary. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So then, but that, I mean, it's scary, but I'm glad that you bring that up because it's a totally different feeling, right? It's like you had your channel, you were used to it. You upload a video, you were used to that amount of views. Okay. So, new subscribers here and there. I mean, you were growing, but not like at the
Yeah.
rate, you weren't like blowing up, right?
Yeah.
Because you literally went from, I feel like, how many subscribers were you at when that video blew
I
up?
was at 5,000 and
Mhm.
then by like the end of the year, I think I was almost at 50,000. So by January, I think I hit 50. So I went from 5 to 50,000 in like 3 months or something.
Yeah. So it's like when your channel took off, like what did that look like for you?
I mean, it's still a struggle. It's still a grind. Like you're only as good as your last video. So I still have to keep reinventing and coming up with new ideas and thinking of things. So it's like, it's not like, oh, okay, now I'm here, I can
Hmm.
relax. Like, okay, what's the next step? Like, how do I get to 100,000? Like, I mean, for the most part, I kind of know what works. There's specific people that everyone always wants to see videos about, like Marilyn Monroe, Jackie Kennedy, like Joan Crawford. Like, there's like the big, like Princess Diana. And
Hmm.
so I keep looking at that. I'm like, okay, Marilyn Monroe are all my top videos. What else can I do about Marilyn Monroe? People want to see Marilyn Monroe. And then usually 1 or 2 videos a month I'll leave up to experimentation because you never know. If I keep doing the same thing, I won't be able to find another video that might pop again. You know what I mean? So I still have to try to leave room to be creative and think outside of the box because you just never know, right? I don't want to get stuck always kind of doing the same thing. So I keep trying to think outside of the box. And that's why I started doing the food videos where I talk about their diets because that's really taking off and people seem to really like the celebrity diets. So I go through all the movie stars and their diets and what they ate, stuff like that. Like today I just posted a Jackie Kennedy one. I did Joan Crawford, Audrey Hepburn.
Going back to your experience like with the boot camp, I thought that was really interesting thing that you said on the fact that it's like when a viral video hits, you want to be ready for it, and almost like you said, like, or you said that I said, be prepared to go viral, because what happens is I found is that I've had people come to me and that they've joined my program and they've had a video go viral, but then they just didn't know what to do at that point. They have this audience that isn't aligned with their niche, isn't aligned with their content, and then it's like they have all these almost like dead subscribers, people that are there that are not tuning in. And for you, I think what's really amazing is that you were so refined in your niche. Even though you had a different type of video, your niche was always vintage, and the people that were subscribed to you prior to your viral video and that subscribed to you as a result of your viral video loved and enjoyed vintage.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it happen with other people that I know. Like they have one video that's 200,000, but then I look at their newest videos and there's like 200 views. So it's like it didn't click. The people didn't come and subscribe to their channel. They have that one video with 200,000, but they just didn't stay and subscribe and watch. You know what I mean? Like I've seen it. I've looked at channels where they have just that one video. So
Yeah, and you were prepared. You were prepared for all that because you had built at that foundation.
yeah. And I just knew what to do. Like I'm like, okay, people want to see the movie stars. I have the Grace Kelly and the Marilyn. Who else can I do? And I just went with it
Hmm.
versus like hauls, like and ignoring like, oh, wait a minute. Like I can't just keep doing hauls. Like these are the ones that are doing well. I need to do that.
Yeah.
So I steered away from kind of what I was doing before and pivoted and moved into the movie stars.
Yeah, and that's great. And it was all under the umbrella of vintage. And you just, like you said, you were able to figure out what it is that people really wanted from you.
Yeah. Versus just kind of like, da da da, and like just doing the same stuff I was doing before. I was like, okay, well, this is what I need to do, and then move that way.
Yeah. And so what helped you most inside of the boot camp when you were going through it?
I guess just the tagging and just the support group of meeting new people and being able to still talk to them today. Like, because it's hard sometimes because it can be very isolating because I don't really know anyone where I live that does YouTube. And it's nice just having a friend that I can be like, look at this thumbnail. Do you think it's working? And like just being able to talk to someone who's doing the same thing. Support group.
Yeah. I mean, having the support for YouTube is huge. And like-minded people that know, like you said, you can ask them like, what do you think about this thumbnail? As opposed to, you can ask your boyfriend or your mom, what do you think about this? They're like, oh yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. Because I remember even when I was doing the boot camp, you were like, oh, stop doing so many hauls and stuff. But I couldn't figure out why you kept saying that. And then like later I was like, oh. Because you kept being like, you're the same thing, like over and over. Be a while to be like realize it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that too. It's like, okay, we got to try something different because if it's not working, let's try this out. And I know you tried a bunch of different things, and I'm glad to see that one of them took off. And like you said, you were prepped and prepared because of like your channel was really built out really nicely.
I at least had like a good catalog of videos at the time.
Mm-hmm. So where do you see the future of your channel going from here?
Well, I still want to do more of the old Hollywood lifestyle. I'm trying to think of other things besides the food and the beauty products, but still talk about like different actresses and actors from the past, or even famous ones today. I've been doing like a dynasty series where I'll feature like the grandma and like their daughter, like old Hollywood dynasty, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm just constantly trying to think of different things that are within my niche that I can expand things a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're definitely close. I mean, you're at 70, almost 70,000 subscribers. I mean, you'll be at 100,000 soon, and that'll be really exciting. But I think that's incredible that you went from a blogger without a YouTube channel at all, and then you started your YouTube. And then I think a couple months later, you enrolled in the boot camp. You went through that whole process. You built out your channel, and then now, like 2 years later, it's switched where your focus is on your YouTube, and now the blog is just secondary.
Yeah. Well, it just makes more sense because that's where the traffic is and the views. So I should just focus on that versus, I don't know, it's a lot harder to take off with a blog. With like SEO, you really need to understand how that works versus YouTube because it's a built-in search engine. You can just grow so much faster through that versus grinding out a blog for years.
Yeah, I mean, what would you tell bloggers who might be thinking about getting into YouTube?
I mean, I think you can make a lot more money with YouTube too and just get a lot more success. But I mean, a lot of people, try YouTube and they don't, and they grind it out for years and nothing happens too. So, I mean, there's no real guarantee either. I think it's worth trying for sure. You never know, right?
You never know. You never know until you try. And like you said, like you could have just said, no, I don't know, I might not succeed. And like you said, nothing's ever guaranteed. But one thing is guaranteed, if you don't try, that you definitely won't succeed.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. No, I agree. Like I would encourage anyone to do it.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen, right? Like you just have to not be like worried, like, oh, no one's going to watch it and like be okay with like, getting like 150 views. You have to start somewhere.
The way I look at it is you have the foundation that's there and you've built it and you've worked really hard at creating a channel that already has good content. And now it's just a matter of every video you put out. I always think of it as like bait that's going to get new people. And also that next, like you're one video away from a viral video, always.
Yeah. Well, that's why I try to think of something different too, like at least once a month, kind of think outside of the box of what I normally do to see if I could get one more of those, Yeah.
And you do. Like the food one was a totally different one. And that one seems to be doing really well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, on like extreme viral, like to me, if something goes like over 100,000 within like 2 weeks, then that's like a good measure.
Yeah. I mean, you were having quite a few videos that were doing that.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. Within like a month, they all kind of took off together.
Yeah. I think that's great. And so, what is your biggest piece of advice for someone who wants to be successful on YouTube?
I'm trying to think. I feel like you can't really be stubborn. You have to be like open-minded and like really take a good look. It's like hard because I feel like a lot of people with like blogging and Instagram is all about them. Like, look at me, like, and I had to like move away and be like, okay, well, what do I have to offer if it's not just about me, but it's about people and other things that, you know what I mean? So it's like, because a lot of people think of influencers as just like all about them. What are they eating? What are they doing? But my channel's not really about that. It's not really about me at all. So it was like taking a look in the mirror and being like, well, what do people want to see? And like accepting that maybe of like, cause if you're a blogger, you're so used to everything being like just doing what you do on your blog. You have to like think of something else.
Yeah, and that's very true. And I think that's so true what you said about it. It's really not about you. It's about your audience. I mean, it has to do with you because you're the one who created content and you need to figure out what are you passionate about. But you already have that. You're passionate about vintage. Your channel's about vintage. It was it was about just pivoting to, well, you realize once you leverage celebrities, old Hollywood celebrities, vintage celebrities, then that's what brought the views to your channel. It wasn't just about a vintage haul of dresses.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just kind of like moving away from like the other people, even in the thumbnails and stuff, just like basically removing myself.
Yeah.
Just using my voice because people seem to like the sound of my voice as like narration and more just like narrating things.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. I think there's a lot of channels that are actually really successful doing that, doing narration. And I noticed that you did that. I was watching videos. I noticed you've been doing that where you basically almost narrate a history lesson about what this celebrity, the type of makeup they would use or the type of food they would eat. And you narrate it very beautifully. And that seems to be working.
Yeah, so I wanted to keep thinking of other ways I can narrate, like through history. I really enjoy doing that. And then it's more not so much me talking to the camera, but just doing the voiceover. And then it's really fun, like telling a story through all the photos and the objects and like panning things over and just telling a visual story through that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like your channel has it's evolved and you've really done a nice job of building off of that foundation that you learn in the bootcamp and all those things you learn and just going with it. I know some people that, yeah, it takes a while. They go through it, they learn everything. And then I always say, but the next part is like really implementing it. And it's like doing it, applying everything. And like you said, you're like, I realized later on, like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do so many hauls.
Yeah.
Like I remember like, switch it up.
Well, because it's hard. I think a lot of people are stubborn. They keep doing the same type of video and they're not like, well, why isn't it working? And they keep doing it. And it's like the definition of insanity when you just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, a video, if I post one, I tried it, it doesn't work. I'm not going to keep doing that topic over and over again. I'm like, it's going to pop next time. Like, I accept it. I'm like, people don't like that. It's okay. Move on. Like, it's hard accepting that, I think. Some people.
Yeah. I think that's really true. I think it's like you said, it's kind of like you got to get over yourself and get out of your own way.
Yeah. And just kind of like really think about things and like, why isn't this working? Like, why aren't people watching? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say you've definitely done a really good job. You're building a really nice channel. You've seen a lot of fast growth in a short amount of time. I mean, it seems short because it grew quickly, but you were doing the work before that. And that's what I always say too. YouTube generally is not an overnight success. A lot of the people that will all of a sudden blow up, they've been working on their channel for months sometimes or years.
I mean, some people get lucky. You know, there are those like
unicorns. Yeah, there's some. But then the back end doesn't work well. So it's like you said, they might be that person that have gotten viral and in the next why are the rest of their videos only 300 views or something like that, right? So there's you have to have that foundation in place, and if you have it in place and you happen to get go viral right away, that's great. That's the best thing. But a lot of people sometimes they go viral and they're not, like you said, they're not necessarily ready for it.
Yeah, they don't know what video to do next, or like sometimes I'll see a channel and they have that one video that's doing well. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, why don't you look at that video and figure out why that's doing so well and do more like that video instead of just doing other stuff? It's like you had it there. Like, take what you learned from that and figure out, well, why did that do so well? And then do like spin-offs of that. That's what I do. Like, okay, Marilyn Monroe has 500,000 views. I'm not going to just stop doing Marilyn videos. Clearly people want to see Marilyn Monroe. So I'm going to keep doing videos related to that, you know?
Yeah, at 100%. Okay, well, so last question. So what would you tell, as somebody who's gone through the boot camp and the whole process, what would you tell somebody who's maybe considering joining or becoming a part of it?
I mean, it's good for anyone, I think. I think it's worth it. Like, if you've been doing it and you're not getting any success, I mean, it's nice having the support group. You really have nothing to lose, you know? I think it's worth it just to try, especially if let's say you have been doing it for 2 years and you haven't had any success, or you just feel lost, even in your niche, or you want to change things. I mean, I think it's worth it just to try, you know? And just for the people you'll meet, like long term, like having friends that you'll meet, you know, and then you can still talk to in the support group. Maybe like half the stuff I wouldn't even have done. Like, you know, it's hard to say where I'd be if I didn't do the boot camp. Maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe I'd still be doing hauls. I don't know.
I hope not. Yeah, but you never know. I mean, I'm glad that you remembered when I was telling you stop doing all those hauls.
I was getting kind of mad. I was like, God, what's your problem? Because I was being stubborn too.
You were?
And I was like all mad about my thumbnails. I'm like, oh, screw her. Like, I'm just going to keep doing it. So, I don't know.
No, it's true. I mean, and you know that, I mean, that's why it's funny when you said like, you can't be stubborn. I'm like, well, yeah.
You have to be open to like suggestions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially if you have a blog and stuff. I don't know. Because a lot of the like Instagram thing, it's all like me, look at me. But you have to like step away, I think.
Yeah.
Because people think it's going to be like Instagram, but it's not.
And I always say, like, people ask, how can you tell if someone's going to be successful? I'm like, well, when I'm coaching someone, I could tell right away, because either they're open to change or they're not. And some people just aren't, or they're not ready for it. Right. Yeah. And so I think either way, like you said, it's like, what could hurt? It's like you're getting outside input from your group, from me, from these different places, which at some point, who knows where you'd be if you hadn't received that feedback.
I think the boot camp's good if you're completely lost and don't know what niche to do, because I feel like you're really good at just like being honest and telling people. And sometimes people don't take your criticism. They'll start the channel that maybe you steer them towards, and they get stubborn and go back, and then they have either quitting or just like, no, I have to do this, but they need to like listen.
Yeah, people don't always take my advice, and it has to do with, like you said, it's a stuff. But I always respect it too. I always say, you know what, this is your channel, and I do not want you doing anything that you don't want to do. Me as a YouTube strategist and coach, I have a vision for you. I can see something, but you as a creator, you have to implement it, and you can't just implement. You have to be excited about and passionate about it. That's why I always steer people in the right direction, but I will never. Like you said, it's like I let people do what they need to do in their own time. Yeah.
No, if you're not passionate about it, I mean, let's say if you told me to be doing what I'm doing now and I like hated it, but I was seeing the views, I don't think I could continue doing it.
Exactly.
Like, you have to be passionate. I think that's the thing. You have to enjoy doing it, because it's like a grind. It's a lot of work. Like hours a week. Like, I don't take any days off. You know, when I'm not filming and not editing, I'm researching. So you have to be passionate and be willing to work really hard. But it's fun. I like it. But I mean, I don't know if people just think it's easy, because sometimes you see people just blow up and it seems easy.
You have to go with your strengths, and you have to go with your passions. And it doesn't matter what anybody will tell you. This is one thing I've learned from coaching hundreds of women, is that has to come from within. And so my job is to help you figure what that out is for yourself, so that you every single day, like you said, YouTube is not easy, but it is simple. It's basically like, use your passions and your experience to create content people want to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really good honing on in your experience too, because I feel like that's what I'm doing with my channel. I've always been obsessed with movies, so I'm taking all my passion with like old movies and stuff like that, and then I'm using stuff I learned in art school, the design and the layout and kind of creating a storytelling through film school when I went there, and like animation. So I'm like taking all these things I've learned throughout my life and I'm applying it to the videos.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed about you when I was first working with you, is that you did have you had the foundation there. It was just a matter of let's kind of mold it so that it's YouTube friendly. And it was also like helping you shift that mindset of blogger to YouTuber, and then shift that mindset. And now it's like, okay, you're primed and ready that you can go out there, create the content, and boom, then when it takes off, then you're off to the races.
Yeah. Because I even notice now when I see like headlines on Facebooks about certain things, I'll look at their title. I'm like, oh, see, that's a catchy title. I never noticed these things because with blogging, I was just more like stuck in this like hall mentality. Now I see, like, I'll look at titles and like the photo, and like I try to lure people in with my titles to make it like scandalous, sort of.
Yeah, I mean it's working.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for being here, and it's been such a pleasure catching up with you. And if people are not familiar with your channel, where can they go to check you out?
It's Laura Jane Atelier. I feel like I can't even say my own channel, sorry, because it's French. Anyways, and then there's Vintage Doll Cosmetics. Yeah. And
Awesome.
then I have two names, but one's Dahlia's in the Attic and the other one's Laura Jane Atelier.
Awesome. And I will put the links in the description below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, let Laura and I know your biggest takeaways from this, what you learned from her experience on YouTube as a blogger, going to YouTuber, her experience utilizing the bootcamp, allowing herself to be open to change. And yeah, I would love to know what you guys thought about this. Thank you so much, Laura.
Yeah, no problem.
This is great. Bye.